All right, what we're going to talk about right now is the high flow Schrader valve. Okay, this one specifically is a Coremax valve. JB, the gauge manufacturer, vacuum pump manufacturer, JB Industries, they actually make, actually, it looks like they just relabel. It looks like Fast Test maybe makes the actual tool, which would make sense because it says fasttestinc.com on it. Okay, so I'm assuming JB is just distributing it for him. But anyways, we have a high flow Schrader valve. You'll see these on Carrier units, on some Lennox units, some other manufacturers too. And essentially, it's a high flow Schrader, meaning that it has a lot more flow rate basically, as opposed to a normal Schrader, which is right here. Okay, a normal Schrader, what you get is that tiny little opening right there. It's going to be almost impossible to see. It's super tiny. Okay, so the high flow Schraders, they're meant to speed up the process of evacuation and different things like that. Okay, but the downside is you cannot use a normal vacuum core removal tool to remove the Schrader like you would any other system. Okay, so what you have to, when you want to remove this high flow Schrader core or Coremax fitting, when you want to remove it when the system has refrigerant in it, use the valve core removal tool, okay, the Coremax tool. This Coremax tool basically grabs around the part of the line that this screws into. See, this has got threads right here, and this screws into a female fitting, and this clamps around that. It has a quick connect on it. Okay, and it grabs around it, locks in with those double O-rings. Actually, I think there's triple O-rings in there. Nope, double O-rings. It grabs around those with double O-rings, locks in place, just like any quick connect tool you guys would use, okay? And you're able to valve it off, remove the core fitting, which is right there, okay? You can see it right there. And this allows you to tighten it back in. Okay, it is a little difficult, but it does work. It's very similar to how a vacuum core removal tool works, okay? But again, the vacuum core removal tool only works for a standard Schrader. It's not going to work for the high flow Schrader valve, okay? You cannot get that little fitting out of this one. You have to change the whole thing. So here's your options. This tool, I've seen anywhere from $350 all the way up to like $500. I think I paid somewhere around $400 for mine. I got it from my local supply house, RSD. You guys can pick one of those up. If you don't, there's another method you could do. You could simply, these things, they leak a lot, okay? So if you have a leaking one, you can simply put on a swivel tee, okay? Tighten it on real good. Put a little thread sealant, nylog, whatever. Well, nylog's not really a thread sealant, but I just put a little nylog, put it on the fittings, tighten it on nice and good. Put a normal Schrader in here, you'll be good to go, but then you got this funky little T. Some people have also just gone and put a brass cap on it, tightened it down real tight. If you're recovering all the refrigerant out of the system, you can actually just unscrew this with a 7/16 ratchet wrench, and I believe it's a 1/2 inch on the other end, and you can actually just unscrew them. I make it a practice. I actually have a whole bunch of them right here. I make it a practice that whenever I open a system up, I change these, okay? Just because of the failure rate and how difficult it is. Now, I just recently got the tool. In the past, it was just a pain, so I just changed them preventatively. It's probably still a good idea to do that. There's another solution too. If you actually open up the system, you can actually pull out that fitting and you can braze in this fitting, which is a normal Schrader. I don't have my tool with me right now, but it'll essentially replace this, but you would have to unsweat the fitting that this goes into. I've done that before too, where I just braze that in with some silver solder, and then you have a normal Schrader there. This does serve a purpose though. This is a high flow Schrader valve, okay? So check it out. I get a lot of questions about these quite often. And I just try to change them as much as possible. Before I had the tool, I would put these swivel tees on like crazy. It has a Schrader depressor inside of it, so when you tighten it down, it'll actually, you'll see it right now. When you tighten this down, it's actually going to push it on. There we go. It just pushed it up and opened it. Okay, so then it would just sit in the open position all the time, and you would have a Schrader on this side. Okay, not too difficult. This is this particular manufacturer, the Coremax tool is the CMCR tool, JB Industries. I got it from RSD, but you can get them from all sorts of supply houses. Anybody that sells JB tools. And then I imagine if you guys looked, Fast Test inc.com. Maybe you can find some information on there too. But good little tool to have. Whatever our opinions are on the Coremax fittings, they leak, they suck. There's so many opinions out there. Or the tool is too much money. Who wants to pay that much for that tool? All this different stuff, okay? Guys, it doesn't, like, get over that stuff. These fittings are installed on several of the major manufacturers of HVAC equipment on the commercial side, okay? I even see these on the refrigeration side on some equipment too. You got to understand from a manufacturer's perspective, if they can shave seconds off of the production line for each particular piece of equipment they're manufacturing, they can increase profits, okay? So, therefore, we have these fittings out there because these are simply on there to increase production time and make them more profitable. All right. So our opinions on whether or not they suck, they're, whatever, it really doesn't matter because they're going to keep coming. The manufacturers are going to do everything they can to try to reduce costs. Therefore, you're going to have these industrial process type fittings added to equipment. Okay. And, they've tried several different types. There's been other kinds too that didn't have an actual valve fitting that we could apply to. If you go to the manufacturer's website, the Fast Test, I think I said is what it is. They have some very interesting stuff. And I also have some ideas because they have some process tools that work with Coremax for evacuation and stuff like that too. So it'd be kind of cool to see someone, manipulate their process tool for evacuations to work with this tool also, to make evacuations go faster. But that's a whole nother random YouTube rabbit hole that I'll go down trying to figure that out. But look, tools are expensive, but tools are tools. Okay. My definition of a tool is something that makes your job easier. Okay. Here's another one. Yes, it's a little expensive, especially compared to a normal core removal tool. Okay. I imagine we probably pay $100 or something like that for a normal core removal tool. And this one is 3-4 times the cost. Okay. But I'm not too worried about that. Okay. Because we are, at the mercy of the equipment we're working on. And if I can make my job easier, then I'm going to buy something that potentially could help me with that. So I bought this tool. When I sell a Coremax fitting, guys, I just add a fee to it. So it's not just the price of the Coremax fitting. I add a nominal fee to help pay for the tool. Same thing with my recovery machine, guys. I have a recovery machine, and yes, it's part of the process and part of the job, but I charge the customer and I make a profit every time I use that recovery machine. Now, I'm not trying to gouge anybody, but I have to pay for the wear and tear of that machine. I can't just simply absorb the wear and tear of my recovery machine. And vice versa, I just can't absorb the wear and tear of this tool to remove these high flow Schrader cores or Coremax fittings, okay? So therefore, whenever I sell a Coremax fitting, I have a fee on top of that. Now, I'm not trying to pay for the tool itself. I don't even remember what it is. I might add $10 to each fitting or something like that, okay, to help to offset the cost of the tool. Because granted, that tool is not going to last forever either. So we need the money to be able to buy that tool in the future again. So therefore, you add whatever your fee that you decide on to each fitting, and then you go from there. Now, these fittings, they actually leak quite often. So like I mentioned in the video, whenever I come up to a situation where I've evacuated the system or I'm about to evacuate it, I've done a repair, I go ahead and preemptively change the Coremax fittings because they're a constant failure rate. There's things we can do without the tool. Of course, you can get by without the tool. I showed the swivel tees, pushing down because that's what I've done forever and it works fine. Okay. But I wouldn't be so concerned about the cost of the tool. Okay. Because you can build a fee into your pricing structure to pay for the tool. Okay. And again, you don't got to gouge anybody. And for the guys out there that are buying their own core removal tools, well, then that's something you're going to need to talk to the company about that you work for, because if they're charging for the Schrader fittings, right, or the high flow Coremax fittings, well, they can simply buy the tool and add a cost to the high flow Schrader fittings to offset the cost, and then it becomes a profitable item potentially, if that's how you want to structure your business. Okay, so don't be so concerned about how expensive it is or all this different stuff. You just got to look and see, is it something that's beneficial for you? Can it make you money? Can it save you time?
and then make the decision on that, okay? I'm not saying to go buy every tool in the world just simply because you can add a fee, because, you know, customers are going to be like, hey, what the heck? But something like this, we come across them all the time, you know? So we might as well. And there's also the other option too. I mentioned that if you're ever working on the system, you can simply just unsweat the Coremax fitting and put in a normal little adapter and sweat that in, and then have a normal Schrader for the life of the equipment too, okay? So you got to kind of do what's best for you, but hopefully this helps you guys out, because I know a lot of people are confused about these Coremax fittings and Coremax tools and stuff. I personally have one on my truck, but I didn't supply all my technicians with them, okay? Because, you know, that's just something I chose not to do. Right? We don't run across them that much, and majority of the time when I'm getting into these complex repairs on the AC systems and stuff, it's coming down on me. But if one of my techs started working on a lot more of those systems, then I would probably supply him with one of these tools too, just like I supply him with recovery machines, torches, vacuum pumps, all those different things, okay? So that's just how we run our structure, but hopefully this video helps you out, and if you guys haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. We also have a couple different methods. If you go to TruTechTools.com, you can use our offer code HVACRTOOLS, one word. And you can also click the affiliate links in the show notes of this video that will help us to support the channel. There's also a Patreon page. If you guys want to help out that way, you can donate to the channel. But we're going to try to keep doing these videos, so hopefully you guys like them, and we will catch you on the next one, okay?